a young age, which put me into a good frame of mind where professional performance are concerned. And I think that helped me a lot because I learned a lot when I was young. And it inculcated me that work rate, that dedication, that commitment, you know, that never say die attitude. And that is really, I think, what is missing at the moment in a lot of our sport. And I think we can rectify that by having workshops like this. And, you know, I just told somebody today that 10 years ago, Belgium was number 66th in the world in the FIFA rankings 10 years ago. Today, they are number 1. And I didn't even know that myself. When I Googled it and I discovered, yes, they are number 1. So 10 years ago, a country like Belgium, a small country, decided to do something about their soccer. And they have conducted workshops like you're doing now. They have focused on players instead of teams. And they have developed their players to such an extent that they are now world beaters. And like you find like Lukaku, Hazard, and those guys, they even made the quarterfinals or semifinals in the World Cup. So 10 years ago, a country is now number 1 in the world. So that gives us enough confidence to say that if we really put our minds to what we want to achieve, and if we really want to succeed, there's very little that can keep you back. And it costs a bit of hard work, it costs a bit of commitment. And yes, we also need maybe some finance, but I don't think that is the important factor. The important factor is that you got to get yourself, believe in what you want to achieve. So if I look at volleyball, and I'm fortunate I've played volleyball as well. In volleyball, if you ask yourself now, where are you now? And then you ask yourself, where do you want to be? And I'm not talking about you as an individual, maybe. I'm talking about the province. I'm talking about the area. And that is what we all need to ask ourselves. And we need to plot our way forward, and we need to say, what will it take? What will it take to get us there? So what we really should be doing, we should be striving for excellence. And I think this is another lost aspect. You know, we are too happy just to be in the final, for instance. We are too happy just to participate. We're too happy just to be involved. You know, that is fine. That is fine when it comes to development. But a lot of times, the problem is not that you set your goals too high and you never reach it. A lot of times, setting our goals in such a manner that it is achievable, but it's also a challenge for us. So what we need basically is a paradigm shift. We need to shift our way we think, we need to shift the way we operate, and we need to shift the way we do things. Because one of the most stupidest things, I believe, is that if you continue to do the same thing and you expect different results, okay? If you want to expect different results, you have to do different things. And I think that is very important for us. So what we need to do is we need to commit ourselves. We need to commit ourselves, mind, body, and soul. And once you commit yourself, mind, body, and soul, that means there's nothing that can keep you back except fate, except what God has put out for you. So most times we have abundance of talent, but because we are not committed enough, because we're not striving for that excellence, we don't achieve our goal. And I think that is the difference between a lot of people that reach a goal and they don't reach a goal. So what we need a mindset. We need a mindset that is a growth mindset, okay? We don't need a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is you take it at failure. When you fail, it's an opportunity to grow. Because most people that have succeeded has also failed. So they didn't They didn't bother about their times when they didn't succeed. They grew with it, and they believed that they could do it, and they looked at what they did wrong, and they tried to correct it in their training programs, in their run up to the title, whatever it takes. But the fixed mindset is that you are limited. You know, you think you can't do it. And when you think you can't do it, you are right, because you're already admitting defeat. So that belief to want to achieve, that belief that you can do it, is a very important aspect. And the growth mindset is that challenges make me grow. A lot of us don't like challenges. A lot of us don't like things to be difficult. And that is why we don't grow. And the moment we get challenged, we give up or we give way, you know. And that is the type of mindset we need to do. And also, feedback. When people give you feedback, sometimes we take it as negative. Obviously, it is negative for you if it's not in your favor. But feedback can be a very constructive tool for you to tell you where you're going wrong or to tell you what you can change. So feedback, it's always constructive, whether it's negative or whether it's positive. Feedback is important, actually. So people that get frustrated, they give up. And that is the fixed mindset that we don't want. And also, we've got a habit of telling ourselves, yeah, but I've been doing this 20 years already. I've been doing this for so long, and it worked for me. Things have changed. Things change every day. What you did 10 years ago is already in the rubble. What you did 5 years ago sometimes might be already outdated. So be a willing person, and as a coach, as a person that wants to succeed, for me the most important factor is that you got to have an open and inquiring mind. Have an open mind where you accept your way is wrong. Have an open mind where you accept your method is wrong or your method is not bringing success. And that for me is key. Having an open and inquiring mind for me is the most important part of a coach. And yes, you can change your mindset. You know, Confucius say, every day is a new life to a wise person. So every day you can become better. And don't think that because you failed all these years, you know, that you won't succeed. Which brings me just to another example. You know, KFC. I think that's the biggest lesson for me, KFC. Colonel Saunders. I mean, he wasn't pensioner. And he had his pension, and he had a recipe. And he believed in his recipe. And he went from business to business and from people to people to try and sell his recipe. Now, guess how many times he failed before he succeeded? I don't know if people know. But he failed 1,009 times. 1,009 times Colonel Saunders failed. The 1,010th time they accepted his recipe, and he changed the eating patterns of the whole world. You can find KFC anywhere in the world. Jy kan wat so man Macau kry, jy kan in Macau kan jy KFC koop, in China kan jy KFC koop. I'm sure there in the months of snow there you can find KFC there as well. So just that man, that he had that confidence and he had that mindset that he can win. Now, not long ago, we had World Cup winners. Our rugby team won the World Cup. What does it tell you? That we've got talent. What does it tell you? That we can succeed. And not very long ago either, our netball team made the semifinals. And I watched a few of those games. And they were unlucky. They came very close. I think it was England or New Zealand, very close. And they lost narrowly. So what does it tell you as well? You know, we can succeed. This man, he won a world record. A world record. And a local boy. Huh? So these are things that must give us the indication that if we really put our minds to what we want to achieve, you know, it is possible. Anything is possible. There's nothing in life that is not possible unless you tell yourself it's not possible. And obviously, like I said, God will determine where you end up. But at least give it a chance. Give it a chance. Try your best. Try by your best, and then God will do the rest. So we are in volleyball, and I know we have a lot of talent in this country, even when it comes to volleyball. And all we need is to develop that talent so that we can achieve our goal. This is just an example for you. This is our SAFA coaching structure. Okay, we got our head of department, which is Ricardo Daniels. He's an administrator, basically. He's a political guy. And then you find me, I'm a coaching guy, right? So I'm the director of coaching. And then we have a technical committee. The technical committee, and we have 4 regional technical officers in Cape Town. And I divided up the province into different areas, and each one of them had an area of the province. And then under them, we will have the LFH, which is the local football association, and then the clubs. So coaching information filters down to the clubs. And there is a structure as to how you can get information to where you need it to be. Okay? So we're still working on this, but at least we've got a plan. And I just wanted to highlight this plan to you because I think maybe it can be something that you can think about if you're not doing it already. I don't know. Anyway, but that is what I thought, and I think it's important that you have a plan. And then when it comes to what you want to achieve, you need a plan and you need a general preparation plan. Okay? Coupled with that, very important to set your objectives. What is it you want to achieve? What is it you want your province to achieve? Okay? What is your goals? And then what is important if you want talent to succeed is your coaching development. I mean, I've been to Holland in '96, and I went to Ajax Holland, where I thought I'm going to see very good youngsters because of the Dutch team. You know, I love the Dutch team with Johan Cruyff and Johan Niskens and Rijkaard and those guys. And I thought I'm going to see a lot of good youngsters in that Ajax academy. Was I surprised? Youngsters in Lavender Hill, youngsters in Nova Park, youngsters in Khayelitsha, youngsters in Soweto was far better than those youngsters that I saw. But what I realized is that youngsters get proper training from young, whereas our youngsters don't. And the difference is that because they get proper training from young, they reach far further than what our youngsters do. And I take it, if you take a child and you start that child at grade 7 schooling, and you compare that child to somebody that started grade 1, obviously there's something missing, and something big missing, and something very important missing. So I pointed down to coaching what is important for the development. So in that we need proper youth development, which should start at the schools maybe, if possible. And then we need proper player development, where the focus is on the player, not the team, the player. Focusing on the player, evaluating the player, breaking down what is the player lacking, what he needs to work on, and so forth. And then for me, I think like training camps, having regular training focused on specific age groups or levels and so on, it's important. Competitions, you know, competitions actually make you grow, and competitions make you realize, you know, what you need to do. So competition is very important, and it's part of development. And a lot of teams and a lot of successful players has participated in tournaments at a young age. So if a child is already played in 4 tournaments, for instance, it's a difference if somebody comes and only played in 1 tournament. So that is part of a very important, successful organization. So to plan, basically, the word is periodization. I think you all know about it. Most of you know about it. Periodization is periodic planning. What is periodization? Is a planning of a long-term variation where volume minus intensity and training sessions are worked out. Okay, it's worked out and it's planned. In actual fact, when I was in Brazil in '98, I did an advanced coaching course in Brazil. My last paper is that I had to plan a whole year. That is my question paper. I had to plan a whole year. It took me 6 hours to plan a year. So that is all part of preparation, and we must know that in this planning, it's important you plan for 4 years, which is Olympics or World Cup, or you plan for 1 year, or you plan for 2 years, whatever is it you want to achieve. And in that planning, in that periodization is the macro cycles. In some sport, the macro cycle is over a year, but in sport like soccer, you have 5 macro cycles in a year. You have your pre-season, you have your first competition period, which is your first round of fixtures. Then you have a December break. Then you have your second round of fixtures. Then you have your off-season, which is your transition period. So those are all areas and periods that you must plan for. And the training changes as you go from period to period. The type of training changes. And in volleyball, it shouldn't be different. The way you train in January is not the same that you're going to train in March. So you got to work out and you got to plan how you're going to prepare, because then your mesocycles is a shorter period of time. It can be a month, or it can be 2 months or 4 weeks, whatever the case may be. And your microcycle is from game to game, or 1 week of training. That is your microcycle. So that must be planned. You plan your week, you plan your training, and you plan for success. Okay? And obviously, the coaches will know what to do and how to plan and what to do. So hypothetically, I just worked out some for the form of plan. So I'll say for volleyball, let's divide it into 3 periods because it's not a professional sport. So the 3 periods should be the preparatory period, which is your preparation for the season. Then you have your in-season, which is the red part here. And then you have your off-season. So I feel that this should probably be fine for a sport like volleyball, if you're going to plan. Then your mesocycles. In your preparatory period, you have 2 mesocycles, which is your basic phase in pink. And then you have your specific phase, which is in light green. Because you quite good colors here, all right? It likes light green for me. Your basic phase and your specific phase, okay? Your basic phase is where you do most of your technique training and your basic preparation physically. But when you come to your last 4 weeks or 3 weeks, you must become more specific to the game itself. And I am a very, very firm believer in specific training. I'm finished with general training. I don't do general training anymore because I know it doesn't help. It doesn't work and it doesn't help. It's fine for development if you're working on certain things, or you just want to keep the youngsters off the street, or you just want to occupy the community, whatever the case may be. That's not a problem. But if you want to succeed, if you want to achieve something, you've got to put your foot down. Then your competition period, there's first round fixtures, then there's your second round fixtures, we all know that. And then your transition period, which is your off-season. Maybe you have a few weeks complete rest, but you also need to stay a bit active, like doing maybe some other sport, swimming, playing tennis, playing golf. I don't know if golf is really going to help you physically, but mentally maybe. So staying active is important, because when you're going to start your new season, then you're not going to start from scratch. Okay? So if you do nothing in this transition period, which is the green period, then you're going to basically start from scratch. And when you start from scratch, you need 8 to 10 weeks in order to get yourself in a good condition. All right? But if you don't start from scratch, you need 6 weeks, 4 weeks maybe, that will get you in a top condition for what you want to achieve. Okay, and then your microcycles, which is your weeks, or your from game to game, or if it's in a pre-season, maybe you organize some friendly matches, whatever the case may be. Then you work your microcycles out within that specific time. So that is planning, and that is how I believe you have to do if you want to be successful. We can't just rock up on training and decide we're going to do this today, and then next week, while I'm driving to the training, I'm thinking, hey, what I'm going to do today? You see, that's planning to fail. That is planning to fail. So you got to have a plan. You got to have an idea where you want to be and where you are now. And that means that you're going to work on a specific method to get you where you want to be. Now, this for me is very key. It is your motor qualities. And I think volleyball is a sport, especially volleyball, where it's very important that you develop this properly, because a large percentage, I think, of success come with your conditioning in volleyball. Okay? Your conditioning for me in volleyball is key. Number one factor is obviously speed. And number two factor is strength, which we all know. And the number three factor is endurance. Those are the three basic motor qualities. But long gone have I developed these qualities on its own. I used to do it before. I used to do two weeks, 3 weeks of endurance training before I start with my strength training. But I've learned over years that you can't divorce this two. So basically, what I'm saying now is, when you develop, now you got to develop, especially if you look at the type of sport like as volleyball, you got to develop factors together. So you need speed endurance. You don't need endurance separately, okay? You need speed endurance. You need that to develop that. And then you need to develop strength endurance. It's a combination of factors. And yes, maybe you know it, I don't know. Maybe you do it, I don't know. But I'm just highlighting these things so that I feel is very important. And the combination of speed and strength is called speed strength. So when scientists talk, or when football scientists talk, like myself, I've studied football science for 24 years. So I've made sure that I study football science so that I know as a coach what it takes to get the player in peak position, in a position where they can compete against those Europeans that you see every week. Okay? So speed strength basically is power. And I think for me, this is the most important factor in volleyball. Because with that power, okay, you have flexibility as well, which the combination of flexibility and speed and strength is agility, which make you move quick, make you very light, make you very fast and very agile, very agile, able to twist quickly and try and rescue a ball that is almost on the ground, right? That is, you need to be agile to do that. Jy kan nie met 'n vet mag hy doen nie. Sy gaan jou lullik jou nie stamp teen in die grond. So you need to be able to do these things. And now to develop this is important. So long gone have I trained these aspects on its own. That is why if somebody talked to me about strength, like today I was in a sports science webinar, and they talk about strength, but then they talk about gym. Strength don't only come from the gym. And when you look at our type of sport, that is isolating the motor qualities. And you know, one of the biggest lessons I've learned in Holland, they ask me, how do you learn to drive a car? Okay, now that was a very key question. How do you learn to drive a car? Do you for 1 month just put your foot on the brakes, and then for another month on the clutch, and then another month the gears, and then another month the accelerator? You don't learn to drive like that. Why don't you learn to drive like that? Because you don't drive like that on the road. Now when we play a game, we do all these factors work together. Yet when we teach, we want to teach it all separately. And that is why, that's one of the problems that we have too, is that to put together the things now, it's difficult. So we must learn to train these aspects together. And not only the motor qualities, also other factors, which I will come to now. Okay. So the learning process, in my opinion, is very important too, is that we've got to know how players learn, and especially young players. And players differ from region to region, they differ. From area to area, they differ. So we must know how that set of players will learn very better quickly and others not, you know. So we got to learn, some of them don't speak the language, some of them are a little bit introverted. So all those factors must be learned and it must be taken into account. And then how do they improve? So once they've learned anything, how do they improve? That is something that we need to be able to do. So we need to be able to know how they improve. And then how do you carry it into the game situation? Because when we do the drills, when we do the preparation, the players can do it well. But when it comes to a game, they can't. So the methods of training is also important, that they can carry it over into a game situation. And how will they be able to perform with opponents and under pressure? When there's a 1 point difference, when the 1 point difference and it's almost the final, can they perform the same skills under pressure? So this is important and this must be trained. This is why we need to combine the various factors in training so that they are able to perform the same drill, the same dig, the same set, the same spike, and the same blocks under pressure, and at the right time, at the right moment, with the right mentality. And how can you make your team improve? So we look at individuals, we look at groups, and we look at the team itself. How can your team improve? Do you know what to work on so that your team can improve? How can you make your team a better team? When it comes to tactics, when it comes to group tactics, when it comes to attacking tactics, when it comes to defending tactics, when it comes to the blocking of dangerous opponents, all those things, all those factors are important. And how do you reach your objective? So especially in development, this is very key questions, because these questions will determine how you are going to train and how you're going to plan and how you're going to go forward. Okay. So important fundamentals for me in sport, and I think it's all over, and Labib can say the same things, is technique number one. That's your tools. That is your tools. And the technique needs to be perfected. If you want to advance, your technique must be perfected, because you can't advance if your technique is lagging, all right? But technique perfected, not on its own. Again, I'm saying that I've gone past that stage where I do isolated training. I've gone past that stage, and I've discovered it works for me, and it works for professional teams or professional setups. So technique is a factor, and obviously tactics. Tactics is key. Your players must know the tactics. It's no use you knowing the tactics as a coach. Your players must know the tactics. They must know how to play when the game is almost finished, when there's 1 point in it. They must know how to play when they lead, how to slow the game down. where to focus on, how to beat the opponent. They must know these tactics. You don't have to, it's no use you know these things and your players don't. So carrying it over to your players is key. And then coming to the physical conditioning, as I said, for me in volleyball, if I can improve myself to 80% of fitness, I think I can play a good game of volleyball. Because if my techniques are sound, then all I need is to be in a good physical condition to be able to perform well. Because I think a large percentage of volleyball depends on your condition. I might be wrong, but that's my feeling. You've got to prove me wrong. Development of complex motor qualities. Like I said, basic motor qualities is fine. Don't talk about aerobic training. Aerobic training in volleyball for me is no use. I might be wrong again, but aerobic training for me in volleyball is no use. You need much more than aerobic training. Aerobic training is okay if a player comes from injury or he comes from not level of fitness, then you can still work on aerobic training. And a key factor for me also in volleyball is vision. I remember when we trained at South Peninsula School, when I played for Madison All-Stars, and I was a setter. We used to train and they used to blindfold me from time to time. And I had to use my ears even to hear the sound of feet, you know. So your vision and your hearing is very important in volleyball, because if you can spot something out of the corner of your eye, you can know how to evade a block, or you can know where the gaps are. You can know where to place the ball. You can know to go down the line, or you can go cross court, or tip it over the block, whatever the case will be, if you have that vision and if you have that sense. So that comes with, it can be developed too, you know. So we've done it in the past. I've played many different types of sport, and I took from the one sport to the other, and it worked, it helped. The psychological factor, obviously, we all know how important it is, especially when it comes to discipline. Now, for me, the discipline is key, but also you have to have commitment, you have to have dedication, you have to have willpower, you got to have passion, you have got to have the will to succeed. And I think the will to succeed is very important for us as provincial coaches, as coaches coaching higher level. It's the will to win and the will to succeed is a key factor, psychological factor, that we have to inculcate in our players. Because if they don't have the winning mentality, no matter how good you get them to play, their mindset is not of a winning mindset. In other words, if they are down, are they able to fight back? Because when you are 4 points or 5 points down, that doesn't mean you're going to lose the game. And that comes with a mentality, that is a psychological factor, which can be trained. And that don't have to be spoken to, you know. It's no use talking to players about psychological factors, because you got to inculcate and you got to fit it into your training programs. And we can get there, we can discuss those things. So if we have another session idea. Nutrition is key, but I don't think it's such an important factor for the youth, especially. And obviously hygiene, which Dr. Nasief is going to talk about, which is more important now. Coming back to the factors here, and I said that we have got to develop factors together. So when we develop technique, don't develop technique on its own. You develop technique together with tactics. You develop tactics together with your motor qualities. You develop your technique together with your psychological factors. So the combination of development is key. The secret is now, how do you do that? How do you do that? That is what is important, and that is what you we as coaches need to inculcate into our players, and we need to groom them in that way. So I said to you, I feel that aerobic training is not the answer for volleyball. I think anaerobic training is the biggest part of a volleyball player, and this can be done right from the beginning. How you do it is different, but anaerobic training is what the volleyball player needs. So what is it that makes the volleyball player need that? Is because of explosiveness. Volleyball players have to be explosive. Their muscles need to be highly developed to quickly excel, quickly act, quickly high-speed actions. So they need explosive power. And aerobic endurance, they vat 'n marathon runner. They vat 'n marathon runner en jy kyk sy rhythm. Jy kyk die rhythm van 'n marathon runner. That rhythm is going to cause a disturbance for the volleyball player. So even aerobic power can be developed in conjunction with anaerobic at the beginning, especially if somebody is very unfit. So this is the system that kicks in for volleyball players, a phosphagon, a glycolytic system, oxidative system, because it's short actions, it's quick actions and rest, quick actions and rest, quick action and rest. So you get your energy from the muscle stored, your glycogen levels in your muscle, it's stored, and what you get out of your liver at the end of the day. So that is a system that is needed for explosive work. So what you have in volleyball, 6 seconds, all out action, and a little rest activity for 14 seconds. This is on average. So now we got to train them to endure this type of action. Okay, so if we train them, we got to train them to endure this type of action. And this can be done right at the beginning, together with other factors, and training the neuromuscular organization, your body. It's your mind, it's your body, it's your nervous system, all working at the same time. And this is why I'm a firm believer in combination training. I'm a firm believer in combination training, and I'll just give you an example of what I mean and what I promote. And why I'm like that is because over years, 40 years of professional football, I went through many trials and tribulations. And as a coach for 30 years coaching professional football, I went through different trials and tribulations. In actual fact, I even argued with a lot of scientists. I argued with Tim Noakes that time already about soccer training. How can they give me rugby training and just put a soccer ball there and tell me now this is soccer specific? And they are marathon runners. So I had long arguments with them. And even when I was in Bloemfontein, Dr. Kutsi, David Kutsi, he was the head of the Springboks for many years. And when I was at Bloemfontein Celtic, so they did the physical conditioning. Then I said to him, Doc, I think we can do this a better way. So he asked me, because he's a nice guy. He asked me, what do you mean? So I explained to him the exercises, but in a football sense, and with football exercises. Okay, to reach 180 beats per minute, to reach the 3 minutes rest intervals and so on. So he said to me, no, he don't see it can happen. So what we did was, all the players had their belts on, or the beam was next to the training ground. They're standing with the laptop, and I'm busy training my team. After 20 minutes, he came to me, he said, Coach, my back hang up. My back hang up. He never believed that you can reach that physical level with training designed for your sport. And I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer in that you can achieve your goal if you include the types of sports, which brings me to a point that your training must be a mirror of the game. If you leave with anything tonight, leave with that your training must be a mirror of the game. So yes, you can do training, other trainings. I like to do strength training by running up roads or steps. I like to do that. Roads or steps, for me, it's good. It's a good strength training on the legs. I like to run in thick sand, right? So building up strength like that for me is fine because it's the action of the running action. But training in general, when you come to specific, must be a mirror of the game or what you're going to do to a game. So you train, if you're going to do tandem drills, if you're going to do decoy runs with the blockers, drawing the blockers from a certain area, decoys and so on, that you can do in your training drills and as a physical exercise. As a physical exercise, but also working on your combination play at the net at the same time. Okay, so you don't waste a lot of time. So for me, as what I spoke about is basically something similar to this. I'll put up a training session like this, for instance. This I call is a physical technical session. So I will have, maybe if I got 12 players, or if I got 24 players, I can have 12 players play a game with no spiking, but the focus is on maybe their movement on the court, just dig, set, you know, and volley and things like that. So they keep the ball alive. But at the same time, we have 4 stations on the side at the same time. So at station 1, they will do 5 squat jumps. Then they will jump from single leg jumps from side to side, sprint, and then maybe they'll save a ball that is spiked to them. Okay? And then they go back. And on the other side, the station 2, they'll do 5 sit-ups, side shuffle, sprint forward, and a volley, or you can volley, then you volley the ball back. Okay? Station 3, 5 press-ups, you do double jumps over hurdles, and then a sprint, and then maybe a dig. It depends on you. And in the 4th station, you can do shuttle runs, and maybe a jump volley, you know, any technique you want to do. But these guys on the side, they work for 5 minutes without stopping on one station, while this team is playing a game inside here. After 5 minutes, you can swap. So this 2 teams go outside, the other 2 teams come inside. Okay? So that is now where you're working on extensive physical condition, but you're not neglecting the game of volleyball. You're not neglecting anything when it comes to volleyball. It's different if you go in a gym. In a gym, there's machines. There, you switch your brain off. When you go into the gym, you actually switch your brain off. And then you just do one muscle group at a time. That for me, it's okay for somebody that comes back from injury maybe, or somebody that has never done training for a long time, to start like that, some general strength training and so on. So this is the type of exercises that I would do if I come back to volleyball. This is the type of exercises I would do. I will do interesting things. I will do things that excite the players. I can do different things inside the court while the others are working on the outside of the court. Okay. So I've rushed a bit through my discussions because I know I don't have a lot of time, but that is the way I feel, and that is the way I organize myself. So basically, what you have to do is you plan, you do, you review, and you repeat. That is the bottom line. Okay? So there you have all your stuff that you have to put together and all that on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, because repetition is important. Repetition in tactics, repetition in techniques, repetition in psychological factors, repetition on technical factors. Repetition is key, and repetition is the mother of learning. So for that, thank you very much, Yusuf. That is all what I thought I'll contribute today. Hopefully, I will leave something behind in your mind, and hopefully you can take something from what I said. But that is my belief, and I've experienced a lot of things already. And I came to the point that this will work for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Coach Boebie. I'm sure that that was very informative. I've got a lot of positive feedback here in the chat here as well from people saying that this is something that they've been waiting for a long time. So thank you for that. And I know you had to rush through it, and it's difficult to do justice to a particular topic. You know, if you only have 30 minutes in which to do that, especially an important topic that you have discussed this evening. But I'm sure we will have more sessions, you know, where you can perhaps elaborate on the specific topic that you were talking on this evening. So we're going to go over to our second presenter, which I have introduced previously. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that again. So I'm going to hand over to Dr. Nasief, who is the specialist physician and is head of the Department of Medicine at Victoria Hospital, which is a public funded hospital within Cape Town. So over to you, Dr. Nasief. Okay.
Did you make it?
Okay, stop sharing.
There we go.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear you?
Is that everybody? All right, excellent. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for the invite and thanks for inviting me. I'm just going to sort of share screen. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Please let me know if it comes through. Coach, is the screen there?
Not yet. Not yet. Don't worry, the screen is under lockdown also.
Yeah, and I've shared it, and perhaps I'll start. Let me just see if the sound's okay and the.
I think did I stop sharing my screen already?
I think you should stop sharing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, no, your screen is on now. The screen was on now.
Is it on?
It's not on now. It was on. Yes. I think let's see it again, please, Doc.
It's on here by me.
It's on. Yeah, we can see it. Yeah, we can see it, Doc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Coach Boebie, can you see it?
It was on here, it's somewhere here, but I must know. I know the slides already, so it's okay. You can go on.
All right, excellent. So yeah, thank you, everybody. So I've been asked to speak about COVID-19 and especially return to play considerations. And in my talk, I'd also will include a part relevance to the youth and to children, because we now know more and more that kids are very definitely affected by this virus than what adults are. So I'll be speaking the first sort of two parts of my presentation. I won't be speaking too long, but I'll talking a little bit about COVID-19 in children, speak about communication with members and the parents, identification of high-risk individuals, that's very important. All of us at facilities, wherever that facility may be, indoor, outdoor, the equipment and kits and club training, as well as player behavior, probably should be coaching behavior too during training and matches. So just to remind us that this virus, this coronavirus, is only 5.5 months old. You know, it seems to have taken over our lives and it's been a global pandemic. But last year, December, when we were enjoying the December holidays, no one knew about the coronavirus and no one knew sort of what was going to come. But so this virus, it's a respiratory virus. It's spread from person to person. It was started in Wuhan in China. The first cases was identified by the middle of January. And It's spread by direct contacts. In other words, from my hands onto my face and essentially my what we call my mucous membranes, which is your eyes, your nose, your mouth. And it is very infectious. One person can often infect up to 3 to 4 people on average. Um, and we've had various outbreaks across schools and in various communities and workplaces. It can also spread what is referred to as droplet spread, and that's important to know. And this is pretty much where the virus is suspended in very small little droplets. For example, coughing to someone on a nebulizer, where and those droplets can remain suspended in the air for up to 6 to 7 hours, and that's particularly available in enclosed areas, which is why it's good to always keep the windows open. These are the common symptoms that was found by the first few patient cohorts in the coronavirus, in patients often having a flu, having fever, dry cough, shortness of breath, and including right at the bottom, diarrhea. Um, and the reason why you need to know this is because part of the screening that we all need to undertake is is sort of a symptom check, a symptom check on our players and our various members. And I'll come back to that a bit later on. So I'm gonna see if I can just connect by picking on this. This is the current situation in the Western Cape. So I'm clicking on the Western Cape part of our dashboard, and I'll show you this resource that exists, and it's currently loading on my computer. And what is pretty much what this tells us is exactly at the moment, you can see it coming up now, what's the current situation of COVID-19 in the Western Cape. And we do know that we are the sort of the hub of or the epicenter of the virus in South Africa. We now know that about 54,835 people have been infected. Now, the real number is much more than that because the testing strategy has changed in the last few weeks. We're now only testing in the government sector with a very specific criteria. We initially were testing widely. Now it's changed. We've had 38,000 people that have recovered. We've had 1,500 deaths. That's an estimate. There may be more deaths than that. And the nice thing of this is that it shows you the various parts of Cape Town and where the various hotspots are. So we can see on top, Tygerberg, especially Tygerberg, in Tygerberg Hospital in Khayelitsha, that's now become the 2 hotspots, of the virus in the Western Cape. So this is quite a nice slide a nice website to go through, and yes, it'll give you an up-to-date information regarding what's happening. Now, the key principles in this COVID-19 crisis has always remained the same from the start, right? Number one, and probably the most important, is effective and regular hand washing. Through our hands, we're able to transmit it to our face. Through our hands, we're able to transmit it to various places where people touch, such as, and that's why we don't shake hands, whether we're touching the door handle, whether we're touching, cups, etc. So important hand washing is critically important. Number 2, the usage of a face mask. Now, initially, you guys remember in the early part of this pandemic in South Africa, it wasn't recommended to wear a face mask. Now, the reason that we recommend a cloth face mask is to prevent spread to other people. So, in other words, the face mask won't protect you, but if you are sick and you don't know you're sick, or if you are sick, it will limit the spread to other people around you. The third point is social distancing of more than 1.5 meters. Now, some people don't know why we say 1.5 meters. The 1.5 meters is that as we speak, or, this normal language, and generally your sort of saliva and secretions goes within about a 1 meter to 1.5 meter radius around your body. So roughly 1 meter, so 1.5 meters, that should be okay. And then importantly, good etiquette in terms of sneezing, coughing into your elbow. And the old people also say that you always should have a handkerchief on you. Number 6, for people that are sick, right, they should be isolated and quarantined for 14 days. But also not only them, if you have a player and that player has a contact in their house, even though the player is healthy, the player is also quarantined for 14 days. And number 6, probably a very important thing is to, within our sort of organization, within our clubs, within our schools, when this is the volleyball forum, within the volleyball setup in your teams, there may be coaches, there may be referees, there may be parents that are high risk. And these people need to be identified, and their risk need to be sort of explained to them, and they need to be aware that they, in the middle of this pandemic, they are in a high risk area, and they should be informed and told about their risk. Next, COVID-19 in children. So this is something that has changed the most in the last 3 months. So, Coach, maybe will remember that in March, I was co-opted onto the SAFA Medical Committee, and I had advised SAFA as well as SAFA National regarding COVID-19. And at that stage, we were pretty much treating kids almost identical to adults. But with kids getting back to school at the beginning of this month, the South African Pediatric Association. Now, this is quite an important body because this encompasses the pediatricians in public sector, in private sector, pediatricians linked to the 9 medical universities. They've all come together and they've looked at the evidence internationally and as well as any evidence locally. I'm talking about scientific research. And they've come out with this position statement, which I think is very important, especially as a volleyball federation to look at. And the nutshell is that in kids, coronavirus is different to adults, right? They are less likely to actually acquire the infection. Number 2, if they do have the infection, they are either asymptomatic in 60 to 80% of the time, but if they often have mild disease, meaning not requiring admission to hospital. However, there is a small subset of children that do require admission to hospital. But if you look at other infections and other reasons why kids get sick, other infections such as flu virus that we all know, other infections such as the rhinovirus, those are infections that up until now, even this year, have killed more kids than what coronavirus has. So this important thought process has compelled the pediatricians to put out a statement that, you know what, the kids are the innocent ones in this, and we cannot treat the kids the same like the adults. Then, you know, so that's important. So this systematic review showed pretty much that COVID-19 in children has milder and it has a far better prognosis than adults. And yeah, so the other important part is that, you know, now we think, okay, the child, what if the child has the infection? Can the child infect the adult? You know, perhaps the child's come to a volleyball training session or a match, and that child goes home. Is that child going to make granny sick? Now that risk clearly does exist. However, what the literature has shown and what the pediatricians have said that when adults get sick, more often than not, it's adults infecting other adults. So in the school context, for example, they were saying that when teachers become infected, it's more likely them getting contact with other teachers, such as when they have a break in the staff tea room, etc. And it's often very seldom that they're infected by the kids. Yeah, so that's important, and that's, you know, and thus far the regulations have not changed. But if we were to from my opinion, if we were to restart sport and the sport of volleyball or any other sporting codes, the first group that I would start will be the kids. Provided obviously we take all the other precautions that I will speak about shortly. Now, as part of our clubs and our organization, we're gonna have to chat to our members, and if you're coaching kids, we're gonna have to chat to the parents. And when we chat to the members and the parents, it's important that we get across some important information. Number 1, we're gonna have to teach them about COVID-19. A lot of people have views, a lot of people have learned on social media, but there's a lot of sort of demystifying facts about COVID-19 that we need to educate parents about, but also especially the fact that kids are not little adults. Kids are kids. Number 2, with all our members, very importantly, we need to have what is called a stay-home policy. That pretty much means that if a child is sick or someone in that household from which the child comes. We don't want anyone from that household to come close to our training or our matches for the next 14 days. Now, this is something that is very important and something almost that you want to have your members and your parents sign. You know, people sign various with a code of conducts, and this could be an actual stamp policy that any single member that wants to be part of your team, they actually have to agree to that. And I think it's important for parents to agree to that in black and white. Yeah, and then we need to encourage our members that we know there's going to be a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, but we need to tell them what have we done to mitigate and to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Right? Clearly, we don't want people that are sick at the facility, but two things are going to happen, especially if you have kids, especially working with kids. Number one is that kids are going to come, you know, they may come in groups, like often happens, and there's a group of 10, but 1 or 2 kids in a group of 10 may be sick. But they know if they're going to say yes to the screening questions, they know that they won't be allowed to train. So, and this happened not only in kids. I work at Victoria Hospital, and it's happened to the staff members, the healthcare workers, the frontline workers, that people have come to the hospital, and as you come in, they ask you screening questions, and people lie. People lie for different reasons, and they lie because, for example, one reason we found was that if they don't get to work, they're going to miss out on overtime and various pay, and they have to make a financial sacrifice if they're not going to be at work. So in a healthcare setting with people fighting the virus, you know, people haven't been entirely truthful. Similarly, it's going to happen at your club. But also, there's going to be people that say, no, they're fine, they have no issues, but when they train, you know, they're going to get sick. So we need to know if someone gets sick when they're at your facility, when they're training, etc., or playing matches. We need to have a clear protocol how to isolate them, where they should be, and how we're going to get them home safely. Importantly, that we need to appreciate that people have anxiety, people have stress. By this stage, most people know someone that has died of this illness. Some people may have lost close family members. So we need to be respectful to that. But at the same token, we need to create a forum whereby we can address the concerns of our members and our parents. And then importantly, the last point is that we know that this virus is spread predominantly by adults. So at many sort of youth events or club sessions, and doesn't really matter the code, we often have many adults around, you know, whether it's a club training, whether it's a match, with the spectators. And an important question for us is that how are we going to limit the number of adults or spectators at our training and our matches? And then, as I've indicated earlier, identifying high-risk individuals are important. And these are high-risk individuals for, firstly, if they were to contract COVID-19 coronavirus, these people are at risk of getting severe disease. What does that mean? Essentially, it means they're at risk of developing a severe pneumonia, requiring admission to hospital and potentially requiring admission to ICU. And we know that there are certain categories of people that are at much higher risk than others. And some of the people that we would want to identify is kids with particular comorbidities that are not well managed. You know, we know there are kids that have diabetes, kids that have asthma, and doesn't mean they can't train, but as long as their condition is firstly well controlled, and secondly, kids with comorbidities, they are going to have medical clearance, you know, I feel if they are going to come into our space in terms of from a training point of view. And then importantly, we have adults that are at particular high risk, and that would be our coaches, that could be our parents, could be our club officials, referees, even the groundsman, even the person that's cleaning your facility. Every single individual adult there in our organization, we need to look at them and we need to ask, are they at a high risk? Are they, in other words, age above 60 or 65? The commonest comorbidities that we see is, are they overweight? Are they obese? A BMI more than 30? Do they have hypertension? Do they have diabetes? People may know for themselves that they're HIV positive, and heart and kidney failure. Those are the commonest comorbidities that we see at the hospital. And these are the comorbidities that put people at a higher risk of requiring not only admission to hospital, but admission to ICU. So these people need to know that, you know, you're more than welcome to come. However, if you come into the space in a public forum in the middle of this pandemic, this is what you put yourself at risk for. But importantly, in terms of the spread, we know that the adults are the highest risk of spreading coronavirus, right? Firstly, between each other, and for example, at the hospital we have PPE, and we have extensive PPE. We have particular N95 masks, we have goggles, we have visors, we have hair coverings, we have particular hazmat suits, or we have gowns and double gloves, and we have covering of the feet. So we really well looked after. But despite that, people still become infected. And the question is why? And the reason is because of the behavior. At times we don't have our PPE on, we're not as particular in terms of adhering to the guidelines. And often, for example, in tea rooms, people still aggregate together, they're without their mask, they're close to one another, etc. So the behavior is equally, if not more important than the PPE. And the same behavior would be important, when we get together. And therefore, I think that it's important that everyone that comes to our facility is going to have to be screened. But also within our clubs, within our volleyball clubs, and within our various teams, we're going to have to think carefully as to when people get together, how are we going to do that? And the chances are very strong that it can't be business as usual. If we want to limit the spread of this virus and not make our club or our environment being the sort of a nidus for picking up the infection, we are going to have to think carefully as to how we do a business with regards to our meetings, and I'll speak about that shortly. Now, the facility that we're going to use to train. Now, for volleyball, it may be indoor facility, it may be outdoor facility, but it doesn't matter what the facility is. Various protocols are going to be released, and what I'm presenting is the principles that underpins a lot of the protocols that will be released. So, for example, you have a facility, you have a team, a volleyball team, and number one is the stay-home policy. I spoke about that earlier. Number two, if you have kids and junior training, even whether it's at schools or whether it's clubs, the night of all the juniors coming on one particular night to that facility, I think in the immediate future is something of the past. So you may have staggered junior training where they're not all training at the same time, but also not training on the same day. So depending on how big your club is, the reality is that people may not get enough time to train, and they may not get enough days that they want to train in order to do it safely. Number three, controlled access to that facility, wherever that facility is. So the exact same thing that happens at schools and at mosques and churches and synagogues and at hospitals, if it's a public facility where people are aggregating, it has to be controlled. In other words, you need to know who's going to come. You need to have a register of every single member that you are expecting. So as people come in, it can't be sort of coming free for all. It needs to be controlled, whereby there will be designated officials that would screen by asking those screening questions, the sort of common symptoms that I indicated earlier. And more people are still using temperature or way of screening, though that's only effective in about 40% of people in terms of picking up the virus. And that's important really because we don't really want sick people to be at the facility. And then the number five is the cleaning of that facility, and what's the protocol of cleaning? And you can't just say, oh, it's been cleaned. There needs to be a register. Who's cleaned it? How frequently have they cleaned it? The Department of Health has put out guidance that a simple bleach solution, sort of, I think 6 tablespoons of bleach with water, that should suffice. So very expensive disinfectants, whilst it may be good and ideal, simple bleach solution will also do it. But with the facilities, also our toilets. So, we will probably ask our parents and our members to rather use the toilets at home and only use the toilets at that facility if it's really absolutely necessary. Number 7, our changing room, as I've indicated, as I indicated that earlier. So the coach may want to meet with this team before training, before match. They may be meeting, they may want to change into the match kit or the training kit. But in a small little changing room and people are very close to one another, that may not be ideal. I'll speak about kits shortly, but the meeting may be better done perhaps outside where you can do some social distancing, etc. Number 8 being the tuck shop. We have identified that the tuck shop is actually a place that poses a huge risk because that's where people aggregate. And that's for one reason that at many schools that have opened, they've decided to keep the tuck shop closed. And that creates a problem because at many clubs, for example, tuck shop is often a major source of revenue for the clubs. And then I've said earlier about a dedicated area when someone becomes sick. In terms of the cleaning of the facility, so when someone comes to that facility, there will have to be dedicated areas where hand washing or sanitizers can be done. Not sort of one place there as you come in. It may also be that the coach of that team also takes some ownership in terms of hand washing, perhaps during breaks when the teams are training or playing. There will have to be good signage, I think, around the facility, around education, but also signage to reinforce good behavior. Wear your mask, maintain social distancing, etc. I spoke about cleaning of the clubhouse, but just to note that these fogging booths and these fogging and these disinfectant booths is not currently recommended for two reasons. Number one being that a lot of the disinfectants they use it may cause severe irritation on the skin, and if you force someone to go to there and that potentially could give someone a very bad skin reaction, I don't think that will be good. But also a lot of the disinfectants end up in the environment and they're harmful to the environment. A simple bleach solution will work. And cleaning of just important equipment. So in volleyball, the net, the poles, as people come to the facility, the areas where people are going to touch, that's going to be the areas that is going to have to be cleaned regularly. Now, equipment and kits. So balls, cones, before every session, it's going to have to be clean, and I think the coach is going to have to take ownership of that. Now, bibs, we all use bibs to sort of, but what commonly happens is that as a coach, you have the bibs with you, and then most coaches will usually wash that bib once a week. But clearly, if we use a bib for one session, then that bib can't be utilized again at the next session. You probably have to clean the bibs after every session. Balls, and that poses a bit of a challenge, particularly for the sport of volleyball, in the sense that one ball will be used between the two teams, but what would be important is that to clean that ball quite regularly. So for example, in the code of soccer, when a ball goes out, the ball boys are immediately cleaning the ball. I'm not sure if you've seen that on television. I've spoken about cleaning the goalpost, but also around sort of your training and your match kits. So ideas for the match kit maybe to give a kit to the player. Similarly, if you're fortunate enough to have a training kit, give it to the player. So instead of changing at the facility, perhaps the player gets tested home and he comes to the facility. The risk there clearly is that obviously you manage to see that kit again. Club training, I think this is very important. And I've said that big training nights are a thing of the past. Staggered junior training, but also the training duration and frequency, meaning that we may not get to train as long as what you want and as frequently as what you want initially, but with time hopefully that can increase. In terms of the size of area where you're going to train, generally the principles have been that you probably need a bigger area to maintain social distancing. And that would impact your type of training that you're going to do. And I saw Coach Boebie's presentation. We spoke about the field and the various activities on the side. So that'd be a really good way to one or two players, or you stagger the various sessions out where people there is some level of social distancing. But as the weeks go by and there's no new infections, the grid will get smaller. And these type of activities will clearly impact on the type of training that you're doing. Now, in terms of the group size, now, many teams will have several players in the groups, but to do so safely, we're going to have to start with small numbers, and as sort of time goes on, those numbers can progressively increase. So perhaps start in pairs, and then get to 3 to 4, and the group gets progressively bigger. And then finally, our players and even our coaches, their behavior in training and matches. So we want we want to show when we're going to start playing volleyball again or training volleyball again, we want to do so safely. We do not want to be an area where that becomes a nidus for the virus to spread. And part of that is actually the behavior that is very important. So things such as handshakes, no hugs, no spitting, typical goal celebrations when, let's say someone gives a nice, there's a spike and a good point, players huddling together at celebrations, that wouldn't be appropriate. When the team gets together, it's quite common for teams to huddle up and hold each other in a circle. We're going to have to think carefully about that and probably rather look more at social distancing where perhaps each player is 1 meter apart at least. And then perhaps during the course of that match, during the course of that training session, when there's a break in play or when the opportunity arises, use an opportunity for people to wash their hands. And then clearly, any players or assistants that is not active should be wearing masks. But the players themselves are going to have to wear masks coming to training, coming to matches. When they're actually playing, they don't play with a mask. It will be quite difficult. And when they're done, they have to put on the mask again. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I want to share with everybody. I'll just stop sharing the slides and I'll take any questions that anybody has. So I'm just looking at this chat channel, and someone has asked a question. Some medical experts are starting to argue that COVID-19 is a vascular disease, not a respiratory one. Your view and why? I've seen that YouTube video by that specialist in Stellenbosch, and he's presented a theoretical discussion that is not actually a scientific discussion. So in other words, if you want to say that it's a vascular disease, I'm not saying it's not a vascular disease, you need to have clearly backed scientific evidence with randomized control trials and to show clearly that this, is statistically proven to be a vascular problem. So the first issue with that particular theory is that there wasn't any scientific evidence presented. The specialist in Stellenbosch, he presented a very convincing argument, but was actually devoid of evidence. There is certainly a thrombotic component to it, meaning that within the virus and within the vessels, there are clots being formed. But if you are treating patients and managing patients like we have and like I've had for the last 3 months, and we've seen lots of COVID-19 cases, it's very hard to believe that it's not a respiratory problem, and that's where the evidence also lies as well. So I think part of the huge issue that we're having as clinicians and as specialists is that all this false information is really confusing everybody, and also I think it's probably impacting people's ability to comply by the health regulations. But just the last thing to comment on that is that when we admit people to hospital and they have very severe pneumonia requiring admission and oxygen, we do routinely give them blood thinners because we do think, in addition to a lung disease, there is a vascular component as well. I'm just reading some of the questions here. Our school hall is used by a club, and I don't foresee that hall being available to the public or club during this pandemic. That's a big challenge. The reality is that I've seen today that the Minister of Sport has allowed football to continue. But SAFA has put out a position that football in the professional clubs can only continue if people are able to abide by the health regulations. So number one, it has to be done safely. So I agree with that comment that the hall may be available, but unless there's clear health regulations, it's going to be hard for that to be open access as what normally would be the case. The question by Kate, you don't think it would be safer for kids to wear masks during matches for safety reasons? Yes, I do think so, but I'm also practical in the sense that we've all seen for the last 2 to 3 months people jogging on the roads in the morning since they allowed it in, I think, in stage 4 of lockdown. Most people I see masks, the mask is on the chin. If they're having a buff, the buff is not kind of over the face. As I drive to work, I see lots of runners, and very seldom do I actually see a runner whose face is covered. It's actually quite hard to do physical exertion with a mask over your face, and that's I think one of the reasons. Example with the football season overseas that we don't see soccer players wearing masks. Though I do think it would be ideal. Um, Not a question, but a comment. Testing in the rural areas are still open for all S7 people, not just 55 as in the older metro. That is true. The challenge is that in the rural areas, the numbers are far less than in the metro area, as in Cape Town. And part of the problem was that all the testing was blocking up tests being done in hospital. So when people was admitted to hospital, we wait up to 5-6 days for a confirmatory test because the lab was inundated with over 20,000 tests that was outstanding. There's no backlog anymore, and we're able to now get our results sometime the same day. Yeah, I don't see any other questions. Coach Boebie, is there any other questions that people have?
There's one more question in doc from Mario.
Yeah, we just go down. Doctor, you did not cover practicing and playing outside. Your thoughts, please. You prefer outside of it? I think outside is. I would prefer outside to indoors because, like I said, there's better ventilation. Indoors. Whenever with any respiratory virus or infection, it's always best if there's better ventilation. So, for example, in my one of my wards, the TB ward, the windows are wide open. There are fans, etc. So, my preference would be for people to train outside. I said indoors because I've seen a lot of volleyball training being happening indoors. But my preference would rather be for people to train outdoors, and I think it's also easier from a social distance point of view, and easier from a cleansing point of view as well. Yeah. Any other questions? I think it's important for me just to also add that the fact that the lockdowns have improved has been purely an economical decision to get the country to be active and open again. Now, the numbers, I saw a stat last night. It took us, I think, or something like to reach 20,000 or 50,000 infections. It's taken us nationally, I think, over 90 days. And it's taken us 2 weeks to reach a similar number of infections, 50,000 patients for the next 2 weeks. But we expected that, and it will be an exponential rise. On average, about 15% of all infections will require admission to hospital. And what we have seen at the hospital is that we're not entirely obeying what happened overseas. So when I came up my presentation to SAFA, we said people over the age of 65, those with comorbidities, we're having people in the 30s and 40s that are perhaps even slightly overweight. And some people are not even overweight, but for some reason, they have contracted the virus. So our population is behaving differently to what was experienced in Europe and China and America. And it is expected that next month and the month afterwards, that's when we think the surge is most likely going to hit. The numbers in the hospital it's quite a lot, and it's alarming. It would have been ideal to still have some level of lockdown. But just to say that we need to be careful, particularly over the next 2 to 3 months.
Yusuf?
Yeah, Almi?
Yes, just a question for Doc.
Okay.
There. Are you noting your comments around the joggers? And I'm a jogger, and I often, I don't like wearing a mask. So I try obviously to time in terms of least amount of people and all of that. But my question is basically, are you therefore saying that wearing masks while exercising, or in our case, if we get back to the court, and the kids wear their masks while doing exercises or while doing physical activities, it's perfectly safe? Or are you saying that it would be obviously good to know whom of our players fall within have comorbidities and all of those things before we actually tackle those things?
So my comment on the mask is that I think clearly from a safety, from a health and safety point of view, it would be preferential if everybody wore a mask.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that practically, and we have to be realistic, most people are not going to wear a mask. So officially, I'll say, if you were to quote me, I'll say, definitely wear a mask. But the reality is that we are coaches. You know, we're going to see very shortly, we won't wear face masks, we'll wear neck masks, chin masks, but it may not be face masks. So that would mitigate the risk. But part of the whole strategy is to try to have an environment where nobody's sick, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, try to have an environment where initially, at least for the first few weeks in our training sessions, social distancing is adhered to. Try to have an environment whereby people are washing their hands. The one slide that I brushed over was where I defined what is a high risk contact. And that's actually quite important to know that. Meaning that you are going to get exposed to someone that has coronavirus. That's guaranteed, right? You may or may not know about it. You may or may not know about that person. But the high risk contact is defined as three things. Number one, you must not be wearing a mask. Number two, you must be under 1.5 meters with that person. And number three, you need to spend 15 minutes or more with that person. So if I come close to you and I'm in your 1.5 meter space for more than 15 meters and I'm not wearing a mask, that is a high risk contact. Meaning that your risk of contacting the virus from someone who's positive becomes very high. Now we also ask the question how, most of the interactions that we have is not actually high risk. But of what in my opinion, the biggest risk actually is where people are not washing their hands properly and appropriately.
Yusuf, if I may.
Is that right? Yeah, sure.
I'm just wanting to know about the winter season and how that would affect us going back to court. Yeah, that's my big worry. Flu season.
Coach, coach, it's my concern too. So we are in the flu season. So why you mentioned the flu season is the flu season tends to be the search season for various respiratory infections, right? It's the flu season. It is the season for the rhinovirus. It's a season for other types of viruses. That's a season, we know when it comes to winter season, it's going to happen. What's made it worse is that in addition to all the other infections, we also have the coronavirus. So in hospital, for example, if we see someone that looks like they have corona and we'll test them, and we test them quite freely and liberally, if they're negative, we'll test them again. But we will then do check for other viruses, such as flu viruses, such as the other viruses. And viruses often in kids is more dangerous in kids than what it is in adults. So you're right, we're in the middle of the surge season. We kind of hit from all angles. And hence I'm saying for the next few months, probably until the end of August, it's gonna be rough.
Thanks so much, Doc.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a good time to wrap up now. We obviously have gone way over our allocated time, but I think everyone will agree that and thank you, Doc Nasief, that these sessions were extremely informative, and obviously we as coaches and as administrators, I'm sure there are administrators here as well. We have to play dual roles here in our sports. Will be important cogs in the process when we do get back into the playing venues and onto the courts. So we will have to lead by example by adopting the required behavioral changes as leaders of the sport and people that organizes the sport. So thank you again, Doc. It's much appreciated. And before I let you go, I just need to say a few thanks here. We want to thank Mr. Paul Hendricks again, the Director of Sport Development at the DCAS, as well as Mr. Claude Meyer that couldn't make it today, who is the Deputy Director of Sport Development, also DCAS obviously, for collaborating with us to start these webinars. And thank you also to Groenewald, the President of Western Cape Volleyball Association and Co-Development Manager at DCAS. And of course, our two presenters, what can we say, Coach Boebie and Dr. Nasief, with a wealth of knowledge, experience that you have brought to this forum. For not only your very informative presentations this evening, but also for really inspiring us to get going with these online engagements and dialogue. We were really inspired. Coach Boebie was kind enough to open, the South African sessions for myself, where I kind of witnessed how these things are done. So that helped a lot. So thank you to both of you again. We really appreciate the time that you give up to actually prepare for these sessions and also to hopefully present it as well. So again, a lot of gratitude towards you guys. Okay, just quickly in terms of what's lying ahead for those that are still online. Our next webinar will be in a week's time, in a week from now, on the 1st of July, also Wednesday at the same time, 7:30 p.m. An extremely important topic will be presented. That is the holistic development of an athlete, and that will be presented by Mr. Paul Hendricks himself. Who's also quite heavily involved with softball, and he's also been involved in football previously as well. I think Coach Boebie can speak to that. And then following on that, the week after that, we will have our first international presenter going a little bit more towards volleyball specific, not quite as fairly generic, but these elements of specificity within the presentation. That will be on the 8th of July, and the topic there will be strategies of building team systems, and that will be presented by Coach Wasimi from Egypt. I think a lot of people in volleyball circles know Coach Wasimi. He spent, I think, about 4 years here in South Africa coaching our national teams. And I think Groenewald was also very fortunate to work closely with him and learn a lot from him. So he will present that topic on the 8th of July. And following on that, on the 15th of July, we're going to have our first homegrown local presenter, and that's none other than Elmine Kluter, who's one of the top coaches within South Africa. She will be presenting top mental skills, motivating players, and we will also have a topic where we're going to start looking at more volleyball specific aspects, and it's specifically geared towards our developmental levels phases, which is, as mentioned at the beginning of the session, we're going to spend a large percentage of the content of these webinars will be geared towards the developmental phases levels. That's for the age groups from 9 to 19. Okay, so watch the space, and yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting. I mean, obviously this is the first webinar that we've ever organized, so we might have gotten a few things wrong, especially around the time, but I think, it's time well spent for those that are stayed on board till the end, because it was extremely informative. And I'm sure we're still going to have a lot of, dialogue around, especially the COVID-19 situation. And I'm sure, hopeful that the doc will avail himself again, if the requirement comes along. Yeah, so I think that's it from me. And thank you for everyone else, the coaches and some players as well, aspiring to be coaches in the future. We have people from Gauteng and KZN that joined us as well. We really appreciate you joining us this evening. So yeah, and then all our, the provincial coaches and administrators that have joined us this evening, thank you for that. So yeah, that's it from me. Greetings, take care, stay safe until we meet again online next week. Bye from me.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Because we're your parents. And just because he's separated doesn't mean we're not raising you together. Tell your father why he's got expelled. Oh, now you can speak. Give some drugs. Go.
Shukran, Yusuf.
Shukran, Coach Boebie. Really appreciate it. Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
At least we finished.
Yeah. At least we finished.
Yeah, we didn't get kicked out by technology.
No. We actually have the paid option with Zoom. So I know the free one you can kick out after 40 minutes. So we on this pro version with Zoom. Yeah. So yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That's good, man. Okay, well done, man.
Yeah, no, well done to you as well. Yeah, I'll speak again, inshallah. Okay, salam.
Okay, all right. Okay, salam.
Okay, salam.